Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Byer. Happy Epiphany, Dave. Happy Orthodox Christmas.
Orthodox Christmas, happy Epiphany. Yes, this is this and that. We are going to be discussing everything going on in the figure skating world. So if you're new here, please subscribe below. Remember to smash that like button. We have Korean nationals. We have Piper and Paul news with Canadian nationals preview. Jonathan.
Daniel Grassl. We've got to talk about Daniel Grassl.
Right. This is so funny because the internet is shifting on this. You know, I feel like Daniel Grassl has never been the most aesthetically pleasing skater.
No, but from early on, he has had an ability to do the most difficult of quads with some natural talent. So there's a real jumping talent there. I just found it was never in the right hands, maybe.
He also seems like a nice boy.
Mm-hmm.
Hard worker,
fan of the sport, because remember last year at Europeans he was gushing and was such a fan over Sherbakova.
Yeah. What do you make of him wanting to go to Team Tutberidze and now?
Well, what's interesting is after that Europeans in early 2022, he was saying how much he admired Sherbakova and was such a fan of hers and would love to train with her. And then even then he was planting the seeds of an interest in training with this camp in Moscow, which to me wouldn't give him the things he's missing. But it was odd then, although it stands to reason. If you pull yourself out of the culture for a second, if you have a skater that's kind of your colleague that you admire, it would stand to reason that you would be interested in their training camp. You know, I admire this person. How do they do it? How do they train? I'm just really fascinated more so from the point of what it's like for a Russian camp like this to coach someone from a different country that's not under their, favored network of judges and federations and things like that. That's why I was intrigued when Shoma went, how that was going to go. Obviously, for their individual preferences, it did not work out. But I'm intrigued what something like the Russian Federation does with a Daniel Grassl, knowing that when Brady, for instance, went and trained with Mishin for a second, and she was making vast improvements, they sort of put the brakes on. Daniel would be a competitor for all of the Russian male skaters. I don't know how the Federation will handle it.
Well, they don't have any top Russian males in the senior level in that camp right now. And my understanding, the official reason I was hearing that he was not staying in Boston was that perhaps he liked the European style where you're always in a group lesson and getting attention, and that the North American style of set lessons wasn't really what he liked.
The actual day in, day out, because it is early. We know everyone will tell us this. He just recently made the change. So it's hard to know how long to give that change, but knowing he bailed already in December told you the day in, day out wasn't really working for him. And I was surprised. I was interested when he was going to seek new coaching, what another team might be able to do with him. Of course, maybe it's the time limitation. It didn't seem to be changing anything or working to his benefit so far this season. And I was surprised he chose who he did, quite honestly. I mean,
it's not that different of a technique of what he does, right? So that on one hand makes sense. Perhaps you have a different person pushing you in that way. And there's that love bombing period with the coach, honeymoon, whatever you want to call it, until things stop going well.
Yeah.
I could see them trying to push and get Daniel a world medal and perhaps pulling it off. Okay. Does Dr. Shevetsky come with this?
Well, if you're the Italian Federation, that would be the concern, wouldn't it? And Dr.
Shevetsky discussed with Shoma, and why did Shoma leave? I mean, I think that's a real question.
Yeah.
And with all that's known about Eteri's camp in figure skating circles that Daniel is a part of and does know, including things we've heard from Benoit about Eteri's camp that Daniel knows, worked with. You think he's unaware when he's going there? Like it's hard to give someone a complete benefit of the doubt. I think ambition can cloud things in skating. Ambition
will make you do some weird stuff. There's no question about it. I guess I'm just naive. I think enough to be like, oh, I don't think that's his intention. I mean, again, it seems obvious.
We know the package. When you go to Eteri, I think it's like you go to Dudikov for jumps, you go to Danny G for choreography.
Yeah.
You go to Terry for management abuse. You go to the masseuse, you go to Zhelezniakov's jazz class, you go to Dr. Shevetsky for your
needs,
psychological needs.
Yeah.
Knowing that, knowing the heels of Valyeva, knowing the situation that they are in with the war, I understand that someone who's 21 years old is not like an average 21-year-old. I also understand that the average 21-year-old in college may make bad decisions, such as this one. I think you have to look at the parents, also the Italian Federation. They're ones who could put their foot down and say, absolutely not, we're not going to allow this. Yeah. But is the Italian Federation turning around and saying, they could help us with the judges and help us get a medal going into the Olympics at home? This is where people make those decisions. When people were saying, how could the USFS consider taking Diana and Gleb? Well, when you have something that seems like it's going to give you success, people are willing to overlook things.
Right.
So, yeah, you're kind of like playing into everyone's blind spots.
I mean, what's interesting, though, again, knowing that Daniel is a fan of the sport, and that's why he sought out like Jason's help, even, with whatever success that was. He's someone that I wonder what the cricket club could have done with.
Yeah.
Known as a finishing school, like that sort of, he needs that consistency and he needs a better sort of packaging on the ice, and however they may achieve it, Eteri may find him that consistency, but obviously the material would be I don't know. I would have viewed the cricket club as a better choice for him.
Here's the interesting spot. Remember when Turzybayeva went from cricket, where she was finishing nothing, to Eteri that a medal, and you're like, well, is Shevetsky part of that?
Yeah,
that's sort of rapid. So he would be going,
and then she never skated again. Yeah.
Of course. But it's interesting because Tarasov and Morozov were from the Nina Mosier school originally. Nina Mosier has been working with Shevetsky since 2010, 2011.
Right.
So they would already have worked with Shevetsky. They haven't had this huge improvement since going to Eteri. Have they been more consistent? At times, they have been more organized, more confident. At times, they have seemed every bit as haphazard as they have in other competitions. So I don't know that they're going to really get the result that they are hoping for.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like even though there's things to address in Daniel's skating, I think it would be an interesting get for a coaching staff because of the natural jumping ability. And he seems like a hard worker, like good student. Because even in the past, when we've seen they've tried to make changes, I think he's committed to trying to make those changes. He's just not had the right people giving him the right changes to make.
What do you think is for Eteri?
Well, you had always mentioned that sort of the clout of a coach is interdisciplinary. So I wonder if she thinks that this can get her some male medals, or that it's a feather in her cap to be training someone from a place like Italy. I don't know if they care about that. Again, I'm intrigued culturally. There was such obviously a PR nightmare when Medvedeva merely trained elsewhere. We have seen less of the former Soviet federations collaborating with Russian coaches, I find, in the long term. Maybe Karolina a little bit with Mishin, but these sorts of things, they seem to want to be wanted, but don't actually seem to train many other countries. So I'm just intrigued how this works for them.
Well, I would think for them, they haven't been able to go to international competitions this year with a top skater, right? This allows them to be in the game. Obviously, clout, that's interesting. They haven't been able to have or to raise a male skater, so you already have an adult skater that you can put through the paces. He's always on the cusp of a medal, so it doesn't look like it would be that challenging to get him to that next.
They're not getting another Maurici. That's for sure. Yeah.
And does it allow them to get more inroads with judges, you know, to always build those relationships, always be networking, always be building? It keeps them relevant and apart. They seem bored this season. They have not done their best work. Their stable has diminished. Eteri's empire in Russia is not as deep as it was a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It's the stable is not what it was. So it makes sense. Tarasov was already saying, well, we've already taken all these people. I mean, they're all on board, right? Because they don't have anyone. I think that they will do it. I think it's sad because he will have a hard time coming back. Shoma went when within skating circles, people talked about this sort of thing. It wasn't so open, right? And things weren't as known as they became.
Well, yeah, and also it was a different period of time. Do you know what I mean? Now the interest in her and that camp post the Olympics, you can't claim you don't really know what's been accused. Yeah.
Especially after Trusova's comments at the Olympics and the hood and this, but fan of the sport, fan of this, young, wants success. I think that they may get short-term results. I don't think that they will achieve long-term results. Right? I mean, at the end of the day, it all comes down to when is Russia allowed back in?
Well, and I'm still intrigued by who's allowed to travel, when, and to what competition. Like, again, we saw Dudakov at the Paris event or something. Would she travel with him? Well, her skaters are ineligible from competing. I
think he would if he were looking like he would win a medal.
She should go to Worlds or something. Because now he visited now. It starts now.
I mean, he's visiting. It seems like it's starting. They're saying unofficially, right? As soon as he was shown in that jazz class. And for them, it's like, look what we got.
Look who else.
I think they're invested in him long-term as a skater. I don't think they're invested in anyone long-term as a skater. Yeah. So,
but he may get... it keeps their names in the mix at a thing like Worlds or something. Yeah.
And they haven't had the kinds of performances this year that they're accustomed to. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she wasn't a miracle pairs coach. I mean, Taras Moroz maybe a little better, maybe, but they're not
consistent. They got the silver in a lineup where they could have gotten fourth with their former errors, at the Olympics. It's intriguing. I'm intrigued, though, having now watched Korean nationals, about some of the coaches here. I just don't know as much about like sort of the different camps, schools of thought, different, choreographers and things like that. Because I have to say, obviously, I am often looking for my go-to names, a Haein, a Young Yu, a Yelim Kim. And of course, Jia Shin making a big splash on the junior circuit this year. You know who I was really taken with? And we've watched her throughout the junior year this year. She was third at the Grand Prix. And I'm not going to say the name correctly. Chae-yeon Kim, who was here. She's the one that wears those unfortunate like leg warmer leggy things in the short program that it's just really upsetting and cuts the line. But especially in the free skate, she, to me, has some sort of magic in the posture, in the deportment, in the taking up of space that I think actually exceeds that of Jia Shin, It sort of holds my interest the most because we talk about with the generically lovely music and lovely choreography for everyone, it's easy for everyone to sort of become a wash of the same. But she really sticks out to me because she has a different kind of energy in her body. And I'm just a huge fan. And I never know in these instances what's to the credit of the skater, what's also a great coaching team or what. But she was kind of my fave.
Yeah, she has the costume in the free, she has a little more, how do I put it?
Fire, almost.
Fire. Yeah, they always like were wearing these like very soft colors, and she's wearing like a little red, right? Like there's that little bit of.
She bites when she skates, and it just kind of like energizes you, and you're into it. I find, yeah.
I'm interested. Like one of those things isn't like the others, like a little bit in that sense, yeah. And she will likely be at the Worlds this season, I would presume. I believe she's age eligible. Don't quote me on. Think so.
I know. It's got to be such an interesting call, you know, both her and Jia, obviously in the junior Grand Prix, both medaling at the final, that who will do what.
Yeah. Wait, I'm checking her age. She's already 16. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I thought.
Believe in yourself, Dave. You were right. Okay.
Well, they started to be like, wait, she could be worlds. Then I was seeing junior. Then, yeah, no, Jia is lovely and has so many of the ingredients to be a top skater, lacks a bit in the stretch and the extension.
It's a lack of finish, right? And especially when I was seeing her short program material, I think the program itself, all the ingredients are there for this to be an iconically gorgeous program. And I think she has the ability to, but as of yet, she doesn't finish each movement. She kind of does the thing and moves on to the next one, where each little move that has been given to her could be this gorgeous little vignette. It's just not been refined yet.
She actually has better jump technique in many respects than Mao Shimada, but Mao Shimada has the finish, right? And if she could just get a little bit of that and a little bit more warmth or performance in her face and a little bit more with the extension through the body, that's what I would really work on in the off season with her when they pick music, ballet class, Pilates, on ice, all of this. I fear they will go the route of difficult elements of getting a quad, but I don't think that they should overlook it, because I think what you see with so many of these skaters when Russia is not in the mix is that all of the ladies tend to have approximately the same elements, and it comes down to quality, and then it comes down to performance. And Jia has so many of the other elements and ticks so many boxes,
right?
But it's that finish and that performance that can make her undeniably at the top, right?
Yeah. Because
you not have it
beautiful right now could be world class. I think her interpretation, if it's encouraged in the right way.
Yeah, and I think they have to go to the right people and have the right conversations about things.
Yeah.
Because I think if you all use the same choreographer and they start seeing you all in the same way, you don't want to go to someone and get the Summer of 42, right? You want to go and get Yelim Kim Scheherazade, right? You want to get Dance Macabre. You want to get something that's going to push you forward and that kind of an investment with your choreographer.
Even more than just the content, I think it would be to have someone's eyes on it at all times during the training. Because again, I think the material is right for her this season. I think she's just not finishing each moment of the material. She
might be right for the cricket club. Talk about Tracy.
She needs a Tracy. She needs some sort of ice dancer type to be with her every day, I think. And we would have an iconic artist.
Tracy, David, right? Call Sandra. I think that's the kind of thing. She's special amongst the crowd and has that ability. There's just like a little this missing, little that.
Yeah.
Which is normal, but if it's not addressed, they never get there.
Right.
So, yeah, I think she is that like top 1% talent that she has something, right? Like probably deserved to win Junior Worlds last year. But Isabeau does have a little more panache than Jia.
Well, she finishes those moments. You know what I mean? I think that's the only difference. I think Jia could even do more than Isabeau, but Isabeau has been trained to finish each move. Yeah. Yeah. I was intrigued by Haein Lee here, who was getting a lot of nice PCS scores for performance and all of these sorts of things. And she does have this incredible posture, and her shoulders are so nice and open, and she takes up space when she's skating. But there's something almost like desperately tired about her short program in particular. In general, something I associate along with many of the similarities that the Korean competitors have in this discipline. One is which they always seem like they're running out of steam, not like they're untrained, like they're overtrained. Like towards the end of everybody's thing, you just sort of saw throwing everything in. And it's not always so enjoyable to watch when it looks like everyone is like pushing themselves at the end of a program. And again, it doesn't look, I'm not saying they're untrained or don't have stamina. It just looks like they've been overworked or something like that. They don't seem fresh.
Yeah.
But
well, they've competed so many times. And then the other thing is, how do you emotionally peak for one competition being higher than the next when they seem to be held in the same arena or similar arenas for similar crowds and they all seem exactly the same?
Correct. And let's talk about that arena, which gives me, and I don't mean any offense by this, but for such an important competition and such high level skating, it gave me like high school gymnasium vibes. Like I felt we were at like a diving meet or something. There's so few audience members. They're up and tucked in the back. And it seemed a very energetic crowd that was really getting behind the skaters in certain moments of the program. But as we talk about something that the team in general could use is a bit more projection and performance at times, give them more audiences, I think the answer to that. But again, they're always in this private, closed off, very limited viewing ring.
Yeah, and when you just had the other competition a month before, 3 weeks before, where is the difference?
Right. And many of these people went to not only the Grand Prix final for senior, or junior. So it's just been...
Yeah, it becomes the next competition, not the important competition.
Right.
And at this stage of the year, you kind of need that peak and valley to kind of get yourself up. So I think it's challenging. And I'm not surprised that the performances that we see seem like maybe slightly better, slightly worse, but doesn't seem to be that emotional push to really nail it in this moment.
Right.
That competition that's going to take everything out of you to give that extra. So
well, because even on the YouTube channel where we're finding a lot of the programs, which all had like error advisories on the bottom. I don't know if you were noticing on the screens. It was like, go home and wash your feet or something. The error is terrible. Where is it coming from? Surely I had a point, and then I got totally distracted by the idea of cleaning your feet being on the screen. Oh, but in those videos, you could see the next playlist of videos was the ranking competition from just a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
It seems so unnecessary.
Yes, and so they certainly.
If it's about mileage in front of audiences, we're talking about something else, but it's not. It's constant, like sort of testing vibes, which sort of solidifies that closed off performance, I think.
Yeah, and it just, there's no change or improvement from competition to competition is discernible. So.
And if you're you, then this is especially disappointing, who had a clumsy start to the Grand Prix season and then just finished out of top 10 here.
And I think that you're seeing, this is a skater who lost their father. This is someone who's had a post-Olympic letdown. I think there's a lot going on there.
When did she lose her father?
Months back, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Because of this year being kind of different than every other, young Hugh, let's see, I'm pulling up personal.
I didn't think her
her father passed away in February of 2022, so the month of the Olympics. So this is someone who's really going through that big loss and those changes. So I'm not surprised. I mean, it's just I think she needs time, and hopefully she can get back. She's also at an age where it's harder and harder to be up for these kind of competitions. So yeah.
And the friendship with Alyssa last year was sort of interesting to me, because I did not wonder if they were on the same page with their burnout. You know what I mean? Okay. It was sort of, I don't know, their friendship intrigued me that way, because there seems some similarities in it, perhaps. But I think
needs a rest and then to get back into training right now, it looks like. So
yeah, I mean, if you're the Korean Federation, has she now taken herself out of contention for Worlds?
I think so.
Okay.
Don't you?
Good thing.
I mean, I think for her sake, give her the rest and not go to Worlds.
Yeah.
I don't see it popping up at this
her
point.
Overall scoring potential is higher than a lot of the people beneath her, and I think the judges could have helped her here more than they chose to, especially in the short program. But again, you've got a lot.
Send her to 7 more competitions before Worlds, and it'll magically.
Yeah. I mean, the other one that interested me, and we've seen her a bit in the past, is Chae-yeon. Also, just some really, really like lovely skating. Min-so Kwon, also some really lovely stuff. So there's a lot of people ahead of Young Yu that I don't think could overscore her if everyone's skating at their maximum. But she hasn't been skating at the maximum, so there are a lot of interesting options for the federation above her. And I did look, the Da-bin Choi, as in the Da-bin Choi, that was the Da-bin Choi, was 14th here. And I just assumed, oh, what a coincidence, it must be someone with the same name. I didn't realize she was sort of in the midst of a quasi comeback.
Yeah, and I think with the University Games this coming week. So I'm excited for the University Games because they're this week in Lake Placid, and we're going to get to see Kaori and some other.
I think Mihara is also going.
Yeah.
It was an interesting lineup of Japanese skaters in particular.
I'm ready for the University Games.
You know what I wasn't ready for just before we go to the University Games was the depth of the men. So I watched Jun Hwan, who was delightful. The short program, just absolutely incredible. Had some moments with the popped axle and the fall on the quad toe in the free, but man, is that quad sow just so bam right now. And I was gonna ask you this. This always confuses me because it's presented in a weird way, this Zayak rule. What I learned from Magic Memories on Ice was that Elaine Zayak did 85 triple toe loops, and they're like, that's too many. If you're gonna repeat a jump, it has to be in combination. I obviously understand that. I think that's totally great. The part I don't understand is why you can only repeat 2 jumps, 2 different jumps, right?
That's just the rule.
To me, it's not unfair if someone does 2 triple axles, 1 in combination, 2 quad sows, 1 in combination, and 2 lutzes, 1 in combination. That to me is not the problem they were encountering with Elaine, where it's 35 of the same jump. If I do 2 sets of, or 3 sets of pairs rather, it wouldn't bother me.
It wouldn't, yeah. I can't answer why it's 2. I don't know. I'm not, that's just been the rule, and I accept it. But yeah, I don't.
Because even back to like when Hanyu was competing, if he could have done 2 quad loops, 2 quad sows, 2 quad toes, you're suddenly making it more interesting points wise also.
I think it's always to encourage the variety of the different kinds of jumps, to have that be more well-rounded so that someone isn't pulling, getting some advantage on other things, and those are just kind of the checks and balances. But I do see your point there. Yeah, I think it's
I understand why, if you're going to repeat it, it at least has to be in a combo. Again, if it's three varieties of jump, though, I don't.
Imagine if someone only did like toe jumps and they didn't do like, right? Like imagine if they did 2 lutzes, 2 flips, 2 toes, and a double axle, and you're like, wait, what? Right? Yeah. You didn't do any edge jumps? Like I think those kinds of things.
To me, then the PCS should be marked in composition, or you know what I mean? That sort of thing would be reflected elsewhere. But yeah, it's unfortunate because for Jun Hwan, I would love to see him do 2 quad sows and just really nail it. But
his triple axle though, they have got to work with.
The second one especially, I mean, it became a step work move. He didn't even try really.
Well, Jun has really pulled himself up over the last year to where he's really knocking on the door of being a top 5 skater, top 3 skater, like a
I
Daniel.
had anticipated he would have had a real big moment on this Grand Prix. And it obviously didn't happen for him. But the material's great, but it just wasn't lining up quite right yet.
We could do EMDR on that triple axel and we can like figure out how to get it earlier.
Just like get in there, hypnotize him.
That's what I think he's been. Honestly, like if I were his coach, that's what I would be trying to do. Like trying to get it earlier, working on drills, working on off ice, whatever the problem is.
And
right?
that would be to find the big picture solution. In the immediate, I would just say, chuck the second triple axel and give him 2 quad sows. Because the quad sow is so spectacular. But I mean, I'm sure they have to keep working on the triple axel so it doesn't become more of a thing.
Yeah, do it in the short program. Right. I think you're right. You can even just see the hesitation, right? And then the landing is off because of the hesitation. So yeah, it's the one thing he's like really missing. Obviously getting that quad toe would help.
And it is
how about Yelim Kim? We forgot to mention her. Yelim Kim,
of course.
Here. Your girl.
I thought the short was great. And I think she thought she had it in the free. And in my opinion, the judges could have gone with her for the free. I don't know what they've accomplished by putting Jia first. Again, it's sort of lovely. A nice redemption skate for her, I think, because she's had a couple of rocky outings. So just to see her be pretty solid throughout here was a nice moment there.
Yeah, I think inherently her edge quality and maturity is of a higher level than Gia's right now. Jia does things in the bonus quite well in combinations. So, but yeah, I think the sophistication of Yelim, she did have a cute kind of response in the kiss and cry where she thought she had it and then she was
yeah. And I thought she had it too, quite honestly.
Yeah.
What's interesting also about talking about these triple axels with Juno Cha, and then Young Yu was doing the same, and you just posted Midori's old ones and her skating now, and you posted recently Tanya's.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting about like the Tanya Midori one is they kind of fly right into it and go, and both Junhwa and Young Yu take like 25 minutes. Almost like coming to a stop on a never-ending edge before they make that attempt that inevitably eludes them. Mm-hmm. It's just a fascinating sort of intro, your lead up to that jump. When again, the most exciting ones we've seen in the past and that you've been posting recently, they fly down the rink and they just go for it. And that attack in the takeoff seems to be really missing here.
Yeah, you can see the hesitation. So.
Yeah. But the second and third place guy here, I'm gonna butcher these names, Yelim Kim and Min-kyu So, they were wonderful. They didn't have like the technical arsenal to compete, but especially in their short programs, their edge quality, their performance quality, like the programs were lovely. It was nice to see sort of that depth there in this event. So
I agree.
Yeah.
They have a lot of upward potential for sure. So I really think that they are in good stead, a stick button would say.
Yeah, that's right.
How about your dance team? Piper Gillis had an appendectomy. And they're going to be.
Dave, this is the first time hearing about this. I didn't know this happened.
Yes. So I posted this on Facebook this week. I think, it always happens right after we do this and that. It was earlier this week they announced. So they're going to be missing the Canadian Figure Skating Championships, which feel early this year because it's a non-Olympic year. They're this coming week. And, U.S. nationals aren't for another 2 weeks. Usually they're the same week. Yeah, she has, her appendix was removed, so they're going to miss it. That's just a shame, especially this is their year. Things have been going so well. And that's one of those things that's hard to get going again from, right? That takes a couple of weeks.
Yeah, what will be intriguing is whether or not then they choose to do 4 continents. I would imagine then they skip that, would you think?
I think it's likely they may have enough time, but I mean, they think they might have to just go to Worlds or have like a competition before Worlds and then go. Yeah.
Which I think they could.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think then this sort of lull for them, instead of coming up for Canadians and for continents, could sort of make sure she just gets healthy and they feel comfy by Worlds.
Yeah. It's obviously an opportunity for the Canadians to potentially win a national title. For anyone else in Canada, it's a huge opportunity for Chalk and Bates to try to capture that momentum, the improvement they had at the Grand Prix final.
Right.
It kind of makes the showdown for Worlds a little bit more interesting if they're not at 4 continents.
Which would be why I would think in their shoes, I would choose to skip 4 continents, because if anything falters due to any sort of
Rushing to get ready.
Rushing, that's right. Then it could really mess up their momentum. Whereas I think they're just
silly. I don't think that their performance at a 4 continents coming back from a appendectomy is indicative of how they are as skaters, but this is a subjective sport, and people remember your last score and your last performance, and they are quick to forget the situation that you were going through at the time.
Right.
So,
right. Or everything that happened a few months ago.
Yeah.
In terms of results. So
see, same thing. We forgot about young Yu and her father passing away, and this, and I'm sure that we read that at the time, and right, we forget, why isn't young Yu skating well this year? So all of that stuff,
of course.
So yeah, obviously for Chalk and Bates, it's an opportunity to keep pushing, and hopefully Piper is fine and they can be back. And I think it does take a couple of weeks to get going after that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a trauma to the body, all that.
Yeah, then you have to rebuild your stamina and rebuild your consistency and all that annoying stuff.
Bending and stuff and that whole area.
All the twisting. Yeah. So.
Ooh, well, I'm wishing her well.
Yeah, and Deanna has still been sick. I think I messaged with her a bit yesterday. She said she was doing a little bit better, but she's still been, they think she has RSV, which she's been, sick for almost 8 weeks now. So it's
horrible.
Really,
yeah.
I do know some people, like my coach Kristen got a little sick at the beginning of December and has never completely kicked it. It's half kicked, right? And I think any athlete that's still trying to train and compete through it.
I was just going to say, I mean, in any example, the answer for all of this would be to hibernate. And the people you're talking about are the anti-hibernators. Has been traveling the world. She's been competing. She's trying, so I bet it's so hard to give in to the rest that's needed in order to finally kick it for good.
Well, have you ever had those illnesses where you're not 100% down, right? You're well, I could push through and do this today. And then you go, and then you push through, and then you feel worse the next day, right?
Yeah, you think you're at the tail end, but in fact, it's sending you further behind. By pushing through. Yeah.
That's always the hard thing, because as an athlete and someone who's driven, you're trained to, on one hand, you're supposed to listen to your body, and the other hand, you're supposed to suck it up and persevere. And
I think more in the skating culture is to push through than to listen to the body. I
think it's a balance, and it's hard.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with injuries.
Right.
It's a really delicate balance of are you hurt or are you
uncomfortable? Yeah. Is this the kind you work through, or is this the kind you sit out? Yeah.
You really don't know all the time, what's going on. It's a tough thing, and you have to really know yourself and trust yourself and do that. So yeah,
be in your body, which we know in some of the more toxic training environments, you're almost encouraged to leave your body.
Yes.
To ignore so many of those messages. Yeah.
So yeah, I think for Deanna, I'm sure a little sick, went to the final, but I'm sure a competition and travel and that kind of emotional and physical stress probably really kicks you down.
Time changes, you know what I mean? Even just vacationing, you're going to become exhausted from all of that time change and jet lag. I can't imagine them being sick and then also pushing your body when you arrive there. It's got to be so difficult.
And Gabby Daleman is also going to not be competing at the Canadian Nationals. She had posted about that. So I think Maddie Skizas, it's kind of hers. Kaya Reuter. I think in the men's, this is supposed to be Keegan Messing's last year. Roman Sadovsky wanting to turn his season around. What do you kind of expect there?
I'm afraid I have come to expect more of the same.
Nationals has been a good competition for Roman in the past. For whatever reason, he tends to do well.
I hope he does. I hope they both do well. I just find both seem to be a bit chaotic this season, which happens with them. And I don't know why the chaos would subside just by nationals. I'm sorry to say.
We've seen some more training clips of Corey Cercelli. He had some struggles earlier in the season. I'm interested to see
Gogalev.
Yeah, what's happening there. It's kind of like a status check for a lot of these guys. I don't know what to expect. I think there's kind of a open door.
Because I think the Canadian men sort of slipped under the radar for all of the Grand Prix a bit. So it will be interesting to see now at this point in the season how they're all lining up together.
And Laurie and Terry are out of pairs, so that is a weekend field. Yeah. I do think dance will be interesting.
Yeah. Marjorie and Zach, I think obviously they're silver to lose then,
But they have been steadily improving, right, as the sleeper team, and you start to wonder, what could they do?
I think this is a big learning season for them with this softened material for the free dance and stuff. And I don't know that it was designed to necessarily even have them excel this season, but I think having done it, they will change the material for next season and they'll be even better as a result of having done this kind of program, even though it's not my cup of tea for them.
Yeah. The Canadians, I'm interested to see if they can kind of rise to the occasion and seize that moment, because this is huge opportunity for them.
They had an issue, right? Didn't they fall at the Grand Prix final, or am I making that up? Yeah. So they have that sort of mental hurdle to get over. But yes, I think this could be a huge moment for them.
Yeah. And so I'm really excited to see Canadian nationals the same week as we're going to have the university games. And I'm sorry, I totally sidetracked you when you were looking up the entries.
No.
Big entries here. We have Nicola Memola from Italy, Shun Sato, Sota Yamamoto, Tetsuya Chisobi, I totally butchered the name, Mikhail Shaidarov from Kazakhstan, Lee Si-hyung,
Chae-yeon. Sato is the guy I was so enamored with at Japanese Nationals this year.
Correct.
Yeah.
Din Tran, Ivan Shmrako. So like a decent men's field. Now the women's field has Ivalata Kibis, Mai Mihara, Kaori Sakamoto, Ryun Sumiyoshi.
It's a real Japanese showdown there, right?
Yelim Kim, who we just saw, can redeem herself. Dabin Choi.
And later in a different continent, yeah.
Ting, Kui, Finley Hawk, Ren Warren Jacobson. And there's no pair event, but there is an ice dance event at this competition. Hungarians, and the US sending Lorraine McNamara, Anton Spiridonov. So an interesting.
And I read somewhere Karen Chen is doing an exhibition.
She's doing an exhibition. Nathan Chen is an ambassador / doing an exhibition, or an ambassador. I don't know what it means to be an ambassador. Hawaii X an ambassador too. Okay. So I don't. Everyone's does an ambassador mean you skate? I don't know. Do you go to a practice?
The university games. Yeah, okay.
I don't know. I want to see, right?
Yeah.
And Olivia Smart officially announced that she's skating with Tim Deek, which we've known for a while. And she's also on Dancing on Ice, and she has Niles, the Olympic gymnast that had, I think Niles, Olympic gymnast, he had a big popular YouTube channel. And I believe this is the gymnast that also had a big documentary about his mental health. So an interesting story there to check out. But so curious to kind of see if she'll stick with dancing on ice, if this partnership is going to pan out, what will happen there. They're supposed to represent Spain. So she also is channeling Madison Hubble. She's now wearing tan skates. She didn't consult us about this, but I'm in every woman's life where you need to transition to the tan skates.
I remember you and Jenny having a conversation about it once, and you were like, once you pick that, you have committed for life. You are no tan skate girl, so you cannot go back now. Yeah. Okay.
You think of certain skaters as being tan skate?
100. I always see Katarina Witt in the tan skates from Lillehammer is one of the images always in my head. Yeah.
Christy never went to the tan skates. She never let herself go.
Right.
When you go to the tan skates, I know that show skaters prefer it and they think it extends their lines, but I always think like you let that it's a choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Madison Hubble went to the tan skates. She embraced her inner Katarina Witt.
Yeah, right. There are worse things to embrace.
Maybe I'm just jealous that I can't transition to the tan skates in life. I don't know, but it's a transitional moment, right?
Yeah.
It's like becoming a woman. You become it's like becoming a grande dame woman on the ice. When you go to the tan skates, you have made a choice.
I'm a dame. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you not think of that with the tan skates? Come on.
I agree with you 100%. 100%. It's like buying a minivan.
It has the same vibe, right?
Yeah, the same connotations, perhaps.
Hubble went from the tan skates to the black men's skates because she's an original.
Good for her.
She always entertains us, Madison Hubble. She's with us for the long haul.
Yeah. And she wins because she gets that Adria Diaz all the time. So she wins.
Dak, he's doing CrossFit like he invented it. But Hubble, she's in the black.
She knew to leave him behind and pick up Adria because
although she had this like whole post that like she's left him for so many months.
But it was interesting because it implied there has been not much contact except for that post. Was sort of, they're taking a break in many ways. Yeah.
Oh, those kids.
She chose well for the one she's going to stay with.
The Olympic Channel producers were fascinated by that dynamic. Really, that was.
Do you blame them? Yeah.
There's the show.
Yeah. Just hit play and just let it run. Yeah.
But then they tried to have them separately to be like, we need to make them likable. See, Madison does everyone's nails. She's so right. Yeah.
She's also kind. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm excited for national season like coming up. Like it feels like we're getting into it now.
It's upon us. Yeah. So next weekend is Canadian and University Games, which also I'm not used to the University Games being so interesting. So there's going to be a lot of good skating to watch this week.
I mean, it's on par with the four nationals. I mean, this is really our kind of an event. Okay.
Amazing.
I have a friend who competed at both the four nationals and is going to the University Games. I mean, they really
full circle. That's
full
nice.
Circle in life. Yes. Oh man. And like, what is your take now? Do you think with all that's happening with Russia, they're going to be, tennis is kind of starting to allow Russia to be at more tournaments, and that's obviously a legal issue. Do you see this? Which way do you see this going for 2024? Because other nations are saying that they'll boycott Paris if Russia is allowed.
I find the threats of boycotts are usually empty. Gosh, I don't know.
Moving to Canada? Like, yeah. I always like to see an article. How many people did move to Canada because X person became president? Exactly. They never follow up on those.
Exactly. But I mean, even every Olympics we've been, Sochi, they wanted everyone to boycott over the homosexuality rules that were in Russia. And then everyone wanted to boycott Beijing. And then everyone was like, don't go to Japan because it's code. They say it every time. And then everyone just handles whatever's thrown at them.
Well, the IOC also bans countries who seem to be there.
Right.
Like, we're not going to allow the Russians, only you're going to wear gray. And still
have consequences. Yeah. What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a mess.
Sure, that's what I think about when I see the Olympic OAR flag.
Oh man, Daniel Grassl, man.
Oh. It will be, I mean, selfishly, it will be very interesting to watch that development, even though I don't agree with the choice, but I will definitely be tuned in.
I mean, what is Eteri going to wear?
Right. Will she go to Europeans with him?
How well is he skating?
Yeah.
You win.
Because with those 3 Italian entries and the 2 French entries, it's not so clear. Say it again.
Missed Eteri?
Do I? No. Because we still see her at those like fake Russian events, and it makes me feel icky. It's like, oh, right, that version of skating.
Does she feel less icky if Danny G is kept at home?
Yes. I think because she plays that role organically, and Danny G seems to be more acting that role, and it seems so cringy to me.
What's she gonna wear? You know, the blue coat wasn't bad at the last competition, but she was on her phone. She just seemed bored, right?
Yeah, she knows it doesn't count. Yeah, it all had that energy of this doesn't really count.
If only Diana could be at the university games, that would be the kicker. But well, I think what we will see with Diana, and I'm working on Assembly Turns, this all hinges on what happens for Russia.
Right. And when that decision is made.
Yeah.
It's hard to know. If things are based on the war, it's hard to know what the war is doing at any given point and when a federation would have to make that decision by.
Yeah.
So.
But they're not going to do is do the American thing of waiting that many years for his citizenship.
Right. Right. Perhaps. Quizás.
Quizás. They have a different federation in mind.
Yeah.
A very notorious federation.
Yes. I won't even make the pun again. We made it last time.
Hold it edge, looks sexy, everyone. I know.